Welcome to Sleepy History Tales. Tonight, we will step into the muddy shoes of a medieval peasant. Those men and women who made up nearly 90% of the population in the Middle Ages. Romantic stories often skip over them, focusing instead on knights, kings, and castles. But the truth is that peasants carried the weight of society on their backs and their lives were far from easy. Tonight, let us walk through a single day in their world and uncover the harsh truth of life as a medieval peasant. The peasant's day began long before sunrise. There was no alarm clock, only the crow of a rooster or the toll of the village church bell. Rising from a straw mat in a smoky one-room hut, the family shook off the cold. Their homes were simple: wattle and doorballs, thatched roofs that leaked when it rained, dirt floors scattered with straw. Chickens clucked in corners, pigs rooted nearby, and the air was thick with the smell of damp earth and smoke. Privacy was non-existent, but survival demanded closeness. Breakfast was sparse: a piece of coarse rye bread, maybe dipped in ale or watered-down milk, if the family was lucky. There was no sugar, no butter, no rich flavors. The bread was hard and heavy, sometimes gritty with ground husks. Hunger was a constant companion, and food was fuel rather than joy. After this meager meal, work began. For men, this meant trudging to the fields. Armed with simple wooden plows and iron-tipped tools, they turned the soil by hand or with the help of oxen. Seasons ruled everything. Spring meant plowing and planting. Summer demanded weeding and tending. Autumn brought harvest, and winter was endured with whatever stores had been saved. The labor was backbreaking, from dawn until dusk, under the burning sun or the biting cold. For women, the work was just as endless. They rose to bake bread in clay ovens, to spin wool into thread, to milk goats, to gather firewood. They cared for children, tended gardens, and mended clothes. Women were also expected to join in the fields during planting and harvest. Their hands were never idle, and their labor was rarely recognized. Children were not spared. By the age of 5 or 6, they fetched water from the well, collected eggs, herded animals, or watched over younger siblings. School was rare. Books were rarer. Most peasants could not read or write. Their lives measured not in pages, but in plowed furrows. Childhood was short, replaced quickly by the burdens of adulthood. Taxes and duties added to their struggles. The lord of the manor demanded a portion of every harvest, often the best grain or livestock. Tithes were owed to the church as well, sometimes 1/10 of everything a family produced. On top of that, peasants had to labor on the lord's fields a set number of days each year, unpaid service, known as. The result was that peasants rarely kept enough for themselves, always teetering on the edge of hunger. Illness stalked every village. With no doctors for the poor, peasants relied on herbs, charms, and prayers. A simple infection could turn deadly. Malnutrition weakened bodies, and epidemics swept through quickly. Life expectancy was short. Many never saw their 30s or 40s. Death was a familiar visitor, present in every home, and religion was both a comfort and a burden. The church promised salvation, but it also demanded obedience. Peasants gathered on Sundays to hear sermons in Latin they could not understand, kneeling on cold stone floors. They clung to faith in saints and relics, hoping for miracles. The calendar itself revolved around religious feasts and fasts, dictating when they could eat meat, when they must abstain, and when holy days offered brief rest from toil. And entertainment was rare, but not absent. Storytellers, traveling musicians, and village fairs brought moments of joy. Children played simple games with sticks or stones. Festivals like harvest feasts gave a taste of abundance. Roasted meat, ale flowing freely, dancing by firelight. Yet these moments were brief interruptions in a cycle of work and want, and housing reflected poverty. Huts were dark, smoky, and drafty. Fireplaces filled the room with soot, but heat escaped through gaps in walls and roofs. There were no chimney smoke, simply rose into the rafters, blackening the thatch. Lice and fleas infested bedding. Winters were brutal. Summers brought swarms of flies. Home was not a refuge, but another challenge to endure. The law offered little protection. Justice favored the lord, not the peasant. Minor thefts could be punished by whipping, branding, or even mutilation. Disputes between peasants were settled by local courts, but any conflict with the nobility was hopeless. To be poor was to live without a voice, your fate decided by others. And despite all this, peasants endured. They relied on each other, families working side by side, neighbors sharing tools, villagers gathering for harvest. Their resilience was remarkable. Though their lives were short and hard, they carried on, generation after generation, keeping the world alive with their labor. Without peasants, castles would crumble, armies would starve, and kings would lose their crowns. So tonight, as you lie in your warm bed, remember the countless peasants who once lay on straw mats, exhausted from endless toil. Their days were marked by hunger, duty, and struggle, but also by endurance and community. Life as a medieval peasant was harsh, far from the romance of fairy tales. Be grateful for the comfort around you, for the abundance you enjoy, and for the freedom to dream beyond survival. Sleep well, and let history carry you gently into rest.